Hello, everyone. Now, I just come back from Alien Romulus, and I wanted to give you a spoiler review. So, the film actually starts off on a base station. I believe it's connected with the other movies, but they are trying to get off the space station. And you see two characters, a girl and her supposed brother, that turns out to be a synthetic, and they end up meeting up with some old crew. And I was really surprised at first just how young everybody is in the film. But that's okay. Maybe it's a different take. So they all decide to go up and take some wreckage from a ship that's up there that they know is going to have some value to them because they're all broke and desperate. So you have some sort of reactions with the character where you feel that they had no choice but to go up in the end. So I like how the story arc makes you feel for the characters and not just jumping into some crazy situation, and you kind of come to the point where you understand why they're doing that. So anyway, so you see a section in the film where you see a ship, and it turns out to be an Nostromus from the first film. So there's another ship that recovers the head that looks like something from Prometheus from the engineers, takes it onto the ship, and also another object and a few other objects, and that's how the whole shit show goes on up in this other ship that's been wrecked up there, which consequently our crew that we follow along with end up going up there naively, and they turn up on the ship. And one thing I must say that this particular film, out of all the Alien films that I've seen over the years, has more tie-in with the originals in terms of aesthetics and sound production. This is absolutely top-notch. It's brilliant. You have to go and see this film in the cinema and appreciate the actual visual and sound effects. They're amazing. So this is a really strong part of the film. Now you go up in this ship and you don't know what's going to happen, but we all know what's going to happen in the end, and it's quite predictable what's going to happen. But they basically try to artifact some things to try and get off the ship to sell them afterwards, and they're trapped on there. Big surprise. So there are certain scenes with the face huggers. It takes about halfway through, more or less halfway through the film, before you find out what's going on. You find out that the brother is a synthetic of the sister. Of course, we knew that. He's a really strong character. I really liked his facial expressions, the way he portrayed the synthetic. It was perfect. The way he looked, and he didn't look real, and the way he acted was brilliant. Um, so they go in a room, and it's a lot of the Covenant and Prometheus style, because there's a lot of the carryover going on there, but at the same time, the same with the first and second movie. So Ridley Scott had a lot, as he was the active producer, he had a lot of influence on the director, and they're not like your characterized jump out of their eggs and jump out at you. No, they're coming from the same thing as convenient with machines, and they've been stored and tested. They must have been extracted from the original ship that probably had an infestation on there, which we can look at the original first movie and probably find indications of that. So they pulled that all off the ship, and then, yeah, the characters are trapped. The face huggers are jumping everywhere in the water. They managed to fend them off and get out of there. But one of the crew gets hit. The crazy part is they go up and they try and take the face hugger directly out of this girl that's got infected, and they manage to do it. And guess who makes a cameo in the first film? Well, the synthetic from the first film. He's in the actual film. So if you remember the first film, there was that crazy synthetic guy, and he is on this. So they actually took the crew before took his body and brought him on the ship, and you see him lying on the floor, but you don't know who it is until they reactivate him, and he's exactly the same as he was in the first film. So his projection activities are exactly the same. He's not changed. So he ends up manipulating the other synthetic, who has a Wayland chip put in his head by the crew, who changes his opinion on everything because he's more manipulated by the crew. But anyhow, they managed to take off the face hugger, and she was still infected. So you think now there's going to be like the first film, where there's just one alien running around chasing after everybody. But then it suddenly morphs into aliens because there are many of them on the ship, and this whole ship is infested with alien nests all over. So then it suddenly becomes aliens because she finds one of the troopers' guns. I don't know if it's from the second film. I think it's between the one and two. And so yeah, there's the infection. There's a pregnant woman on the ship, and she tries to get away, but the cousin doesn't manage to get away, even though the android from the first film is manipulating the whole thing to try and get off the ship as she's infected somehow. But anyhow, that doesn't happen, and then they find the black goo. The black goo is in there from Prometheus and Covenant, and it's just like the whole film is like one big crazy horror house, which is great because it's coming from the first and second movies, and it's carrying that over. But at the end of the day, none of them managed to get off the ship, and one of them manages to survive. And my whole brain is just trying to process what I have to see. It's one of those films that you have to see again to understand it. But the end of the film disappointed me. It was like the pregnant woman injects herself with the black goo, and then she is basically giving birth, like we saw in Prometheus, for example, to a kind of variation of the black goo. So that's still in there. Ridley Scott had his way there, and that is the final boss, the final end character, a mutated version of that baby she was meant to have, and the one girl survives and gets off. So that's pretty much the whole story. I think aesthetically it looked amazing. The sound effects were amazing. They got the sound effects and everything. But I think it's one of, if not the best film since first and second, and it's worth going to see. But it's never going to suppress those first two films. That is simply not possible, and it's not going to happen. So I recommend you go and watch it if you're an Aliens fan. It's certainly better than what we've had since the third Alien film. And yeah, if you like the review, like, subscribe.